Came in.
Awesome. Really excited for this because I know it's going to be an amazing episode.
Well, pressure's
Yeah.
on.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to the Bless Show. And I'm super happy and super glad recording this episode with one of the amazing mentors, I might say. And when people know who he is, they will definitely agree with what I'm trying to say, because he's kind of a mentor for a lot of people at this point of time with the value he's providing, with the way he's providing all the knowledge and all the wisdom he has to the design community. So I'm really proud and honored to have him on the show. So we have Mike Janda on the show. First of all, welcome, Mike. Welcome to the Bless Show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. You and I have been Instagram friends for a long time, and it's fun to finally chat together like this. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. Before we move on the show, let me just put it straight. I wanted to know this because I have heard you being interviewed by a lot of people, and some of them call you Mike Janda. Some of them call you Mike Janda. I don't know what's the actual and right pronunciation, but somewhere I heard that you mentioned that it's Mike Janda. So which is the right pronunciation?
I go with Janda. Some people say Janda. And if you're in South America, they're going to call you Honda because J is an H sound there. So it's a variety. I answer to a lot of different things. So it's but you know, Mike Janda, Michael Janda, either of those are kind of the most common.
Awesome. I'm sorry, because I kind of picked up the wrong one.
That's
so
okay.
So for everybody who might be confusing with the fact, it's Mike Janda, people. So yeah, I hope you keep that in mind next time if you ever got the chance to get an interview. That's what you call it. All right, super happy and super stoked to be recording this episode because been waiting for this for a long time, and finally we made it. So for the very few amount of people those who might not know about you, probably living under the rock if they are a designer, because at this point you're really helping the design community a lot. So for the few of them, I would really appreciate if you could kindly introduce yourself and where are you from and how have you been doing, what are you doing, all that stuff, so that we get to know you more and get on the show.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll give you the quick overview. So I'm a designer by trade, by nature. I went to school. I majored in studio art, left school, got my first starter jobs, ended up landing a creative director job at Fox Studios in LA. And that was really a transformational moment in my career because I had a big title. I had, working in a Hollywood studio, and I built great relationships with some of my coworkers that ended up becoming clients later on. After I was at Fox, I started my own agency called Riser. Ran my agency for 13 years, did a lot of work for Disney and Google, Warner Brothers. Fox was a client, NBC, ABC, just down the list of these kind of great companies that I almost would never have even dreamt of working with these clients when I first started. It's always kind of in the back of the mind, the dream, I want to work with Disney, or I want to work with Google, or whatever, those kinds of clients. And you get afraid to even make it a dream because you don't want to be disappointed when it doesn't happen. So I was really, really fortunate, and I'm still really, really grateful that those were the clients that we served at my agency. I ran my agency for 13 years, and then I sold it in 2015 to one of my competitors, and worked with them for a couple of years. During the whole run of my agency, building my agency, I wrote the book, Burn Your Portfolio. It was published in 2013 and has been one of the top selling books in the design creative industry for the last several years. But I never really did anything with it. I never really marketed it. I'd have some speaking gigs here and there, but I never really maximized kind of the potential that came out of that book. And and as I was getting toward the tail end of running my agency, and when I sold it, I started sitting back thinking, what do I want to do with my career? What is it? Where's my passion now? Because I've done the agency thing, and that kind of internal dialogue led me to think, you know what? I love, one of my favorite roles is creative director or art director in a business. I love to mentor designers. I love to critique and push, and I love business strategy. I love the partnership component in a business, and ideating ways to expand and grow a business. And those are really deep rooted passions of mine. And so as I, got to a phase in my career where I could pick what I wanted to do and not do something to chase a dollar anymore, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to mentor and teach and coach and speak and write more books and develop content, all to help potential or growing designers progress in their careers. And so, one of my things now, so I started at the beginning of this year. Instagram is my primary vehicle for delivering content. I also have a YouTube channel, but it's my second tier place. But Instagram, it's every day, it's every direct message, it's every comment I try and reply to. And I'm just trying to give without the byproduct of thinking, oh, I need these people to buy from me. It's just, it's such an afterthought for me. I'm just trying to go out and help people. And it's been so rewarding to me in my career. And I wake up every day just grateful for what I get to do, grateful to have friends like you all over the world that I get to talk to and build these relationships. And it's just so gratifying to me. So I guess that was a little bit, probably a little longer than what you were expecting, but that's my
not at all,
what I'm doing and why I do it and why I love it.
So great. Your story sounds just like every other designer's dream, to be honest, because it's when you are a designer, as you mentioned, you dream of working with big clients like Disney, like Google, like Fox and ABC. But at some point, as you mentioned, sometimes you think, what if I dream about it? What if I don't get it? And I just get all disappointed. But the fact that you made it possible and the fact that you have been successful all these years gives a confidence level to all these beginner designers that doesn't matter if you don't dream about it. If you just think of having that capability, you're going to make it in the coming years. Thank you very much for sharing your story.
Hey, I do have a comment on that, because one of the things that I think is important is that I started at the absolute bottom of the design industry. I graduated from college. I could not get a job. It took me months to finally get my first job. And my first job as a designer was at a copy store, where they make photocopies.
Yeah.
And I was like their designer guy who would design business cards for the people that would come in and want to pay $20 for a business card design. That was where I started because I couldn't get a job anywhere else. Well, 4 years later, I had a creative director position at Fox Studios. So for all of the designers out there that think, oh, I'm starting at the bottom, I'll never make it somewhere, man, I started at the bottom and got somewhere in my career. And so it's all about just that drive and passion and self-education and just going after it with tenacity. And you can make it. You can get there. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in as a little.
Of course, of course. The bottom line is you just got to do it. There's no other way around. So happy to hear your story about that. Yeah. So as you mentioned, you also are an author, and I'm probably guessing most of the listeners have read your book, that is Burn Your Portfolio. You have also written one more book, that is The Color Psychology. And I read the book Burn Your Portfolio probably after 5 months I started working as a freelancer.
Oh, you did?
And of course. Yeah. So by the way, just a side note, when I saw you on Instagram probably when you started out, when I saw you on Instagram, I was like, is this the same guy who wrote the book,
Probably
Burn Your Portfolio?
because I had 1,000
Yeah,
followers, and so you're like, how could it be?
yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, why is it? Yeah, why is it that he's not anywhere? In the sense, why is he not available?
yeah,
And that was just a side note. So
yeah,
I read the book completely, a sea of knowledge that is, because every page speaks of your experience. Every page speaks of how people should not be focusing on what they think or what the worldly standards are. Um, at the same point of time, I couldn't relate to the deepest level because I just started design as a hobby
yeah.
and I never looked for jobs, which I now kind of regret a bit. Yeah, because when I started out, I just started as a hobby, and down the road, I just turned it into a full-time business. But um, yeah, at the same point of time, I can understand and I can totally relate how it might be so helpful for people, those who are just rushing after this design degree, looking for jobs, and with the portfolio. So thank you for writing that book and helping
You're welcome.
so many people around the world. So you mentioned you founded the creative agency that's called Riser in 2002.
Mhm.
Uh, what was your goal when you just started out the agency? Did you had a clear vision in mind, or did you just do it after your job as a creative director? So that was kind of the next step.
Yeah, so I didn't really build a vision until probably about 3 years into it. I started freelancing, and I was so paranoid of my own cost of living. I had two little kids at the time and my wife, and I was responsible. I felt that responsibility to provide for my
Mm.
family. And so I was just freelancing, just in the grind, just
Mm-mm.
next
Yeah,
project,
we all
next
relate
project,
to
next
that.
project. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just trying and just hoping for the next project to show up. And I never really built a vision until it was 2 or 3 years into it. I finally started hiring, some little support people, just junior designer level people, to start trying to offload some of the burden that was on me from these projects I
Mm.
was taking on. And that's when I really started, from employee number 1 to employee number 5 was 1 year. And I went, from just me in my basement to 5 employees in an office space in a year. And that's when I sat back and I thought, man, this is more
Mhm.
than what I expected.
Yeah.
I was just trying to provide for my family, and now all of a sudden I'm providing for 5 families. And so that pressure kind of flipped my paradigm a little bit. And I started to look outside of what I was doing and started to try and create a vision of what this could become. I started looking around at other agencies and looking at their studio space and getting jealous of them and getting competitive. I'm a really competitive person. So I look at people and I'm like, I'm as good as them. How come they have 20 employees in this cool space? I can do that. And so that was always just a drive. And then I started to build that vision. And, going back in time, I wish that I would have built a vision sooner, because I probably would
Mm.
have progressed faster. And one of the things I do one-on-one business coaching for people. And I'm surprised at how often on my first call with somebody, how often I find that they have no vision of what they want to create. They're just
Yeah.
sitting there like I was, in the hamster wheel, just running, trying to get the
Mm.
next project done. And they don't have a bigger picture vision. And as an owner of a company, as an owner of a business, your number one responsibility as the CEO of you, or the CEO of Google, or the CEO of Facebook, it doesn't matter. Your job as the CEO is to build a vision for the business, and then to inspire the employees of that company to chase that vision with you. That's CEO 101. And every freelancer out there is the CEO of their own business. So get down and make a vision for what you want to be. And it doesn't have to be an agency. It can be, you can be the greatest freelancer of all time. There are a lot of solo freelancers out there that don't have, they're building on their personal brand. They don't have 50 employees, but they've built this reputation in the design community of quality work, and they get sought after because of their abilities. That vision is great, but decide on it and go after that and do everything that you can to build that vision. Or it may be a small business, or it may be building a business that you can sell, or maybe it's building an agency that is self-sustaining, that just generates income for you without you having to work every day pushing the pixels around. There are a lot of different ways that you can be successful, but you have to go back and start with the vision as early on as you can. I'm always encouraging people to make a vision board, take pictures of, make a Pinterest board of what is it that you want to become in your career, and create a vision, a visual representation of that, so that it's always there in your subconscious, influencing your decisions.
Awesome. That's some fiery tips, people. If you have taken notes, if you haven't, go back and just do it, because this is something that's really necessary to every individual solo entrepreneur or solopreneur. They say that they have this vision. Thank you for that. We would jump on to today's topic that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about building a strong client relationship. How can you build a strong client relationship? Because being freelancers, specifically being freelancers or solopreneurs who don't have much of experience with clients, how can you actually build a strong client relationship so that the business between you and your client is more effective and productive? So the first thing that I would like you to talk about, I would appreciate if you talk about it, is where to start, how to build a relationship rather than just a gift. Your client is coming to you and you're just providing your service, and they pay you back and they just go.
Yeah.
And to come out of that mindset and to build a relationship first and then do business along with that, where to start with that?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I just made a post this morning on my Instagram, and it's a quote of myself. Sometimes I quote myself on my Instagram anyway.
Please.
The quote is, you have to be where the clients are and they are not in your basement. Yeah.
Yep.
You have to be where the clients are and they're not in your basement. And that's step number one, is get out of your studio and get out where the potential clients are. Now, there's two perspectives in this. Number one is in social situations. Go to networking events, go to conferences, go to take people to lunch that have the potential to become a client. Just got to get out of staring at your computer. So that's number one. Now, some people will say, well, I don't want clients where I live. Where I live, it's not a good client base. I'm in a small town. I'm in a country that doesn't value design. There are a lot of different perspectives of why you'd want to chase clients outside of your area. Most of my clients were not in my home city. I traveled to LA, San Francisco, New York. That's where the majority of our clients were. And I would travel to those places to be in front of those clients. So if you don't live in a place where you're trying to target the clients in your specific area, then be where they are online. You can digitally be present. A lot of people really effectively do this on social media. LinkedIn is probably the number one location for business related relationship building like that. Instagram for designers is valuable. Behance and Dribbble. I know of designers that get a ton of work out of Behance and Dribbble, that the clients are searching for them there. So you've got to be present in those places where the potential clients are, the ones that you want. And most people, it's interesting, they'll complain about Fiverr because it attracts cheap clients. but then they market their business on Fiverr. You know, they're trying to get business on Fiverr, and then they complain that they have cheap clients. Well, they're marketing themselves where the cheap clients are. Take a step back and start marketing yourself where higher paying, better clients are, is a great approach. So where to start? You got to get out of your computer. Just to summarize, you got to get out from behind your computer and out where those clients are and start building just real relationships. So that I would say is step number one. Number two that I think is important is you've got to do it just because you want to build relationships, not because you're trying to sell something to them. If you come in and you're thinking in the back of your mind, I've got to close this deal. How am I going to close this client? They're going to smell it on you. You know, they're going to sense that, and they're going to be turned off. We live in an environment now where people they don't want to be sold. Commercial viewing is not the way that people want to be sold creative services. They want the perception of making their own decision. And you do that by building a genuine relationship. Let them know what you do for a living, but don't say, hey, I'd love to talk with you about your design needs. You know, don't try and close the deal on that interaction number one. In marketing, in branding, there's the rule of 7. The rule of 7 is that a potential customer needs to interact with your brand 7 times before they build an affiliation with your brand that would create a transaction. It's the same thing in business relationships. The rule of 7, I like this rule, and you've got to think of it, okay, I've got to interact with this person 7 times before they're ready to buy from me. So you meet them at a networking event, that's step number 1. Then you take them to lunch, that's step number 2. That's connection point number 2. Then you connect with them on LinkedIn and send them a message, that's connection point number 3. And then you send them an email a month later and just say, hey, thanks for connecting with me. Meeting you was great. I love talking with you. That's connection point number 4. But you got to get to 7 before they've built a relationship with you to the point of them trusting you enough to say, okay, Bless, I want to hire you to design my logo, because they know you. It's not just buying a service from you. It's that they want to work with you because they like you and trust you. And that's such a critical thing. And it's a long process. And that's what's frustrating to a lot of designers. We're like, oh, I want to show up on LinkedIn, send somebody a message, and then have them buy from me, you know? But it's just never going to happen. You've got to build these interaction points to build this relationship over time. And then those clients are entrenched. They become long-term clients. I built my whole industry or my whole agency on this exact principle. It was relationship-based sales.
Awesome. Totally agreed with that, because as young designers, we always get this thought of, you know, just finishing a project and just getting on the next one, getting paid for a project and then getting paid for the next one, and not really focusing on building a relationship with a client, which I think does you much better in the long run, which might not be as visible at the present time, but it definitely helps you in the long run. So totally agreed with that. And as you mentioned,
so I was just going to say, look at our relationship. So we connected months ago on social media. We've commented on each other's posts. We've shared some direct messages here and there. And then when you reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? My response was, as fast as I saw the thing, it was like, totally, yes, let's do this. There was no hesitation. I didn't have to look you up. I didn't have to see if you were legit or not. I just knew that it was going to be good because we had touch points before. And so you can see this happen, not just when you're trying to sell design services, but just in any kind of relationship. Consider it like dating. You know, you're dating somebody that you want to court Well, you don't ask them to marry you on the first date in most
Yeah.
situations. You got to go on.
Unless you're drunk.
Unless, yeah, that may be the case. But you do have multiple, 7 dates before you start talking to them about going steady and being in a relationship together. It's just the same thing applies. So we can't rush it in business. Look at how it works in relationships outside of business, and that is how it works inside of business as well.
Totally. 7 is a good number, people. Just keep in mind the 7 rules, which brings me to the next point that I would like to discuss is, what are some necessary checklists, or let's say points, as you mentioned, these 7 points. Apart from that, what do you think are some of the necessary checklists? Let's say we have started building a relationship. We now know that we have to get out and be there where the clients are. Yeah. Now, what are some things that we need to be aware about when dealing with clients? Some necessary ones that you can't just skip these things. These have to be there when you're dealing.
Okay, so it's a great question. The very first thing, and this applies to so many aspects of design, but you've got to really know who your target customer is, so that when you're out there building relationships, you're looking for the people who fit your persona that you're targeting. Mm-hmm. They fit the type of industry you're looking for, the type of budgets you're looking for, the type of work that you want to be doing, that you're most skilled at, so that you can provide the most value to them. Those are really the top 3 things. So you're looking for those people that fit your persona. So define who it is you want to be targeting and go after those people. Be where those people are and build relationships with those people. So that's step number 1. That's super, super important. You're going to have more success if you target a specific persona, a specific industry, service, and budget point. You're going to be more successful than if you just are, I am the needy graphic designer that just send me whatever and I'll do whatever. I can work Photoshop, so give me some work. If you come across as this needy person that will take on any project, you completely lose the upper hand in the relationship. You just become this subservient production monkey that you just want them to give you work so you can push the pixels around, and you lose that. And that comes to the thing where people ask me sometimes, how do I find better clients? Well, market yourself in a way that attracts better clients, and most of it comes from having self-esteem in what you want to do and what your skills are and what you can provide to a potential customer. Okay, so that, I would say, is step number 1 on what you're looking for. Number 2, I would be looking for someone who, in any persona that you're targeting, look for somebody who values design, who respects you as a collaborative partner for what you're going to provide for them, not somebody who is looking for you just to push the pixels around on their vision and wants you, because they can't use Photoshop, you are their hands. That's not the ideal client. The ideal client is somebody who wants your ideas, who wants your input, who trusts your expertise. And looking for those people, man, that's so, so important. I love those kinds of clients, even, and it's tough. I mean, those are the best kind of clients, but even 15 years into agency grind, we still had clients coming to the office that were wanting just pixel pushers. They want what, they're just wanting that. And this is with an agency of 80 employees, and you still have people who perceive you that way. So look for people who value design, who value you, who want it to be this collaborative partnership, who want your expertise. And you can smell those people out when you start talking to them. Ask them about experience working with clients in the past, ask them what has been successful with past design relationships with designers, those kinds of questions, really leading questions that will help you get a sense of how they perceive a client vendor relationship.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Jumping on the next one, as you mentioned, to ask questions about that might lead into a relationship rather than just being a service provider. When you ask how to listen to them and how should be the conversation more effective, because being designers and being experts, sometimes it's hard for you to just be there and just to listen to them and to be kind of in their shoes and to understand where they're coming from and to listen to them based on their position at this point and how to react to it effectively.
Yeah, this is a great question, and I have some passion around this. Because what designers do is we position ourselves by nature as order takers, and you'll see a lot of content around this: order taker versus being the expert, and it all comes from us taking the client at face value. They come into your office and they say, "Hey, Bless, I need a new logo." And you, as the order taker designer, say, "Okay, cool. I design logos. I'll make a great logo for you." And that's taking the client at face value. But if we take a step back and start asking questions, the goal is to get to the real heart of their problem and to position ourselves as the expert to solve that problem. So somebody comes into your studio and they say, "Hey, I need a logo." You say, "Oh, well, why do you think you need a logo? Why do you need a new logo?" And then they say, "Oh, well, because I just started my new business." And then you say, "Oh, well, who are you trying to target in your business? Like, who are your customers?" And then they say, "Oh, this customer and that customer." And then you say, "Okay, well, who are your competitors? What do their brands look like?" And you start asking these questions to get at the root of why they need a new logo and how you can position yourself to solve that. The bigger ones come when people come in and they say, "I need a new website." And you say, "Okay, great. Why do you think you need a new website? Explain to me what problem you're trying to solve with your new website." And what you'll get to is that the heart of the problem isn't that they need a new website. That's just their own diagnosis of the solution. That's what they need. That's what they need. But what they really need is more sales, that they saw a slump in their sales, or that a new competitor emerged and is taking some of their market share. And maybe it isn't a website at all that is their problem. Okay. Maybe it is that they need a new marketing strategy. Maybe it's that they need to spend some money on media buy to counteract the loss of clients that they have. Maybe it's that they just need to optimize the website that they have right now, that they have some poorly worded things, or they have a poor conversion flow, that they don't have proper call to action. It could be a million different things, but it may not be just a blanket, "We need a whole new website." And so getting down to the clients, not taking them at face value, that they have properly written their own prescription for their ailment. We can't trust that they've diagnosed themselves properly and written the right prescription for themselves. We have to ask them, like a doctor would, "Okay, well, tell me what it is that's really ailing you," and we get to the heart of the problem, and then we give them the proper solution for it. And so this is, in listening and reacting to clients effectively, which is the root of this question, it's all about digging deep on questions. Keep asking until you get them talking enough that you get to really understand what their real problem is. Now the beauty of this is that all of a sudden you can charge more money, because by the end of a conversation like this, the client is perceiving you as the expert, not as the order taker. And order takers get paid less than experts. A custom chef who is going to make a meal from you from scratch because it's exactly what you want, that's going to cost you a lot more money than standing at the counter at McDonald's to order a Big Mac value meal. It's going to cost you more money. So don't be the order taker. Position yourself as the expert, and you do that by getting to the root of the problem, and you get there by asking questions to the client. They respond, you ask a question about what they just said. They respond again, you ask a question about that until you've really diagnosed and understand what their real problems are.
Totally, ask more questions. That sums it up, because asking more questions leads you to them talking about really what they want. Because sometimes I also have experience, although I don't have that much of experience, but at the same point, the experience that I have understood this fact that clients also come up with a set list of answers that they are trying to tell you. But when you make them jump out of that comfort zone and make them jump out of that and talk more raw and more real about what they really want and what their intentions are behind hiring you, that puts you in a zone where you try to understand what the real problem is.
Yeah.
So yeah, ask more questions.
And let me give an example, because there are probably some people listening to this saying, well, I'm not an expert enough. I don't even know what to ask. And so let's address that for a second, just to give some people some tangible strategies to this. The very first thing you can do, number one, you have to know that in most circumstances, you know more than your client knows about marketing and design. So just know that going into it. It's very rare that a client who is coming to hire you knows more about marketing and design than you do. That's why they're trying to hire you, because they feel this lack of knowledge. So know your position in the relationship. Know that you have a stature of expertise that you can build on. So don't be afraid to start asking questions just because you have this fear of insecurity that you don't know enough to ask. So that's number one. Number two is the easiest way to go about this is to just restate what they said to you in the form of a question. So client comes to you and says, I need a new website. You say, why do you think you need a new website? Not very complicated questioning strategy. Then they say, because my sales are going down. Well, why do you think your sales are going down? Because we have a new competitor that's taking some of our market share. Who is that competitor? It's just, you don't have to ask these massively educated questions based on SWOT analysis and marketing mix and things. Those are great strategies, but you don't have to know all this stuff to be able to effectively give this QA style conversation. So just restate what they're saying in the form of a question until it digs you down into finding what those real problems are. And get out a piece of paper and take notes with every response. This is so important too. You got to write this stuff down. You got to look like you're interested by being interested and by writing this stuff down, because you're trying to get to the heart of their real problem. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in so that there is some actionable strategy that we share here on how to go about digging into these questions with potential
For
clients.
sure. Yeah, a lot of people might relate to that, and that will be really helpful for people, those who have this, inferiority complex of not being an expert and just going with what the client says because they feel that they don't know much. But as you mentioned, the fact that they came to you and hired you clears the fact that they are not confident enough on what they're doing, and that's the reason they're hiring you. So as you mentioned, the actionable tips that I would, because I have this note where I had how to not be self-centric and focus on clients' problem, but I think we have covered a bit on that front already while you were mentioning these points. Do you have any points you would like to add on to this, or do you think that we should just jump on the other one?
on these not being self-centric.
Yep.
I touched on it, and let me just give a sentence or two. Maybe I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm ever good at a sentence or two. Let me give you
No,
three to
please go
20
on. Yeah.
sentences. Anyway,
We would take 25 to 30 as well.
okay,
That's not a big deal.
okay. So not being self-centric, I did touch on this in one of the things I was saying, that you can't go into these relationships with the perspective of I'm trying to close this person. You have to go into it and with the self-esteem. I talk a lot about self-esteem as designers because by nature we're insecure people. We are just we're always showing our work to people, and we're afraid that somebody's not going to like it because we like to be people pleasers. So we as designers by nature are insecure, and so you have to go into these things about not being self-centric. You have to go into it and say, okay, I'm not trying to close this client on a sale. I'm just trying to build a relationship and trying to have my 7 touch points. I want them to know what I do for a living, but I'm not going to try and close the deal right this second. It's such an important way. They don't want to be sold. They're going to buy from you when they trust you and have that relationship. They're going to buy from you at that point. It's not a transactional type of industry.
Yeah.
I work with designers. So some of my past employees and things that I use when I do business coaching stuff, and sometimes a client that I have will need some design work. And I'm calling the ones, they do good design for sure, but I'm calling the ones that I have the best relationship with. I'm calling the ones that I trust the most, that I know that they're going to work hard. They're going to be truthful, honest. They're going to execute. They're going to hit their deadlines. And the quality of work is the third or fourth thing on the list of my reason for hiring them. It's my relationship, my trusting relationship is reason number 1. So anyway, so go into these relationships that way. Go into it not being the needy designer. Go into it by positioning yourself as they are lucky to work with me. You are a great example of this. You are an amazing logo designer. I'm not just saying that to you. I've told you this before we even talked about a podcast, but you're an amazing logo designer, very talented. Any client would be lucky to work with you to design their logo. You should have that perspective. And so we as designers, we get into these relationships thinking, oh, please greenlight this project. Please, client, work with me. But you have to go on the flip side and think, man, that client should be hoping to work with you because I'm going to provide this amazing value to them. So any client's going to be lucky to work with you as a logo designer. You have to have that self-esteem. So look at your work and look at the value you provide and look at the person that you are and the experience the client experience that you can deliver to a potential customer, and let them hope on their side that you will work with them. It goes both ways.
Exactly. Thank you very much for your kind words. That means a lot to me, especially when that comes from you. Thank you very much. So this brings me to the last segment that we're going to talk about is some quick, practical, and actionable tips that are just out of these bookish knowledge, and something that you have experienced in this 15 years of design career working with clients. Some practical, some actionable tips that a lot of designers maybe miss on, and which might be a small thing but makes a huge difference, kind of like all these practical and actionable tips. What do you have some of these actionable tips?
Okay, so actionable tips about landing clients or building these client relationships and things, or analyzing a client. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, building a strong client relationship.
Okay. So some of this will be just summarizing some key points on what we've talked about. Number 1, build relationships just because you want to have relationships, not because you're trying to sell something. Number 2, don't just be an order taker. Don't assume that the client has properly diagnosed themselves and written the proper prescription for their diagnosis. You have to dig in and ask these questions. Number 3, the rule of 7. You've got to have 7 touch points. Don't go in and try and sell a client on you until you've had 7 touch points with them. Now, there's some variance in that. It might be 5, it might be 10. Some clients might take 20, but be patient. Don't go and try and close that deal right out of the gate. So those are 3 touch points. Number 4, know exactly who you're targeting. You got to know who it is you're trying to serve with your business. What industry are they in? What services are you trying to sell to them? And what are their budget points? Where is their price ranges that they work with? And know that persona, define that persona, and then be where those people are. They're not in your basement, like we started out talking about. They're not in your basement. So you got to get out of your comfort zone and start to be where those people are, to start building some of those relationships with them. So I think those are kind of 4 tangible summary points of what we've talked about today that hopefully are some good takeaways for people.
Of course, that sums it up, and just every point is something that is much more important when we are trying to build a strong relationship. So thank you very much for that. We're just going to take some listeners' question. I just put up an Instagram story talking about asking people whether they have something. And majority of the questions were ask him whether he prepares his posts, the social media posts by himself, or is he hiring people, or what's the social media strategy like, and how do you prepare these posts and just put it out every day? Majority of the questions were running around.
I do them all myself. I have a Notion document where I keep funneling new ideas. And I have a ton of content ideas I haven't even touched yet. So every time I get a new idea, I dump it into this Notion document. And then when I need a new post, I look at this Notion document and I'm like, okay, that one sounds good. I'm going to build that one. That's something, from a tangible strategy that is really valuable. If you have a location to put your ideas, then more ideas come. Like you create this empty page and your subconscious wants to fill it. So start a Notion doc or Evernote or just a notes or a Google Doc or whatever, and start by putting down, just open it and call it my social media content, and then make it a blank page. And you'll be surprised over the coming days how many ideas just pop into your head while you're in the shower or taking a walk or whatever it might be. New ideas pop into your head, open the doc and stick the idea in there, because by nature, our subconscious wants to fill the void. So I have that happen all the time. I mean, I am opening that doc all the time. Every day I get 2, 3, 4 new ideas that pop in. Some of them come from questions that I get in direct messages. Some of them come because I read something or saw something that I have an opinion on that I want to share. Just a wide variety of things. Some of them come because I get sparked on some thing that happened to me in the past in my agency. And so I'll write a post that solves a problem that I had 10 years ago, knowing that some people will have that problem today. So anyway, but yes, I create all the content myself and I create all the posts myself, and I try and get ahead of the game. I'm always anywhere from 8 to 20 posts in the queue. And I don't know what I'm going to post on any given morning. Like I get up and the first thing I do for my day when I get into my office is pick one of the 8 to 20 posts that are on there. And a lot of times I look at them and I'm like, okay, well, which one which one should I post today? And I kind of just go with some inspiration and think, okay, this one sounds good.
Yeah.
And I love when people reply, "Oh, this is so perfectly timed for me. I needed this." And then I'm like, "Oh, perfect. That's what I wanted."
Yeah.
I wanted to answer this person's problem, and maybe that's why I posted it today, because it was
Yeah.
inspired just to help that one person that day. So I love
Yeah.
getting that kind of response. Anyway,
Yeah, so that's right there.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right there. The answer for his social media, right? Because yeah, of course, it's kind of a curiosity for a lot of people. How do you put out this content? Because lately you've been doing so great on Instagram, upping the follow counts, which was
yeah,
also one of the questions that people were asking. What's his strategy? But I don't want to touch on it because of the fact that it's something that every other person wants to know, like
yeah.
how to build up the following and all that stuff. But
I do want
yeah,
to touch on that.
yeah,
Can I
sure, please.
okay, so
Yeah,
I don't do any tricks.
yeah,
I honestly, I put hashtags on the bottom of my post, and that is really the only trick. And I post
yeah.
during my highest engagement time, which is
Mm-hmm.
9 a.m. to noon my time. And
Yeah.
those are the only two things that I do that are, algorithm minded tricks. For me, it
Yeah.
is honestly, I'm just posting content that I think is going to be valuable for people.
Yep.
I post things that are fun for me to make. Like a lot of my ones, when I use little cartoon characters and I make the dialogue between the two and
Yeah.
stuff. Some of those they're super fun for me to write them and come
Yep.
up with, okay, what would this person say back, and how does this relationship go? And so some of them they're fun for me. So I get my creative outlet, but I'm not doing any tricks. I'm honestly, I'm not asking people to share my posts. I'm not saying,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything that's trying to get them. I'm not running sweepstakes. I'm not saying I'm going to give away an iPad to share this with 10
Oh yeah.
followers or anything. I don't do any of those things. I'm
Yeah.
the follower growth is just a byproduct of
Of
delivering
course.
content.
Exactly.
One thing that I do think that is important is that I push for a variety of different content types. And I'm doing video content. I'm doing little quotes I started putting
Yep.
animated backgrounds on them. I started adding music. I just started playing with just being creative, but it's not always every day getting a carousel slider post from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do more variety. And I do think that has some value, because you see a lot of people following the carousel trend in Instagram and the design community, and it's always just carousel every day.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to push and do some things that aren't the same every day. And now that there's so many people doing carousels all the time, I'm like, how
It's
do
just
I?
flooded.
It
Yeah.
is. So I'm like, how do I stay relevant in this
Yeah.
community?
I think, yeah, just right there. I think you up the carousel game on Instagram, to be honest, because after you come up with this posting style of carousels with all these informations and all these advices, I think I do remember Chris Do mentioning this from the future, that he inspired you to do more of these carousel posts. So talking about the variety that you were mentioning, these animated characters, the one I really liked was your animated character that was dancing that you put up on one of the milestone posts. Yeah. So I think that would be great suggestion for people to come up with variety of content and just not following the fleet and just following what everybody does, and maybe just coming up with a variety of stuff.
Yeah, push it. Be creative and push the ideas. I've started to see some people really push it, and I've highlighted those people in my stories. I love when somebody's doing something, that's more creative, that's a little more interesting. I support those people. I follow those people. You've got to get out of the looking like you're following everybody else, and figure out how to look like you're doing your own thing, your own version of this type of content. Yeah.
Totally.
and it's
Yeah. So,
competitive. I mean, it pushes me every day. I see people doing awesome content, and it really
mm,
pushes me to think I got to keep going. I got to keep pushing
yeah,
myself, which is really,
totally.
really healthy because it's making me progress as an educator. So
Sure. Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's there, people. To all the listeners' question, that's what the social media strategy looks like for Mike Janda. And if you were wondering, because some people were like, we are pretty sure that he hires people to do
Yeah.
this stuff, but
Yeah. I'm a
yeah,
cranker, man.
so great to see
I've
that you
been,
do it all by
yeah,
your own.
I've been doing design for a long time, so I'm a
Yeah.
shortcut monster. I mean, it's just like both hands going,
Yeah,
and a
we
lot of
would like to
times,
see some of BTS videos of you
yeah, I
preparing the
should do that.
content.
I should
Yeah.
do some. Yeah,
That would be awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you very much once again
Oh,
for
you're
being on the
welcome. It's super
show.
fun. Thank
This
you.
this was super fun and super informative and super valuable content you're providing. So usually I edit the some of the bits and bobs of the podcast, but I'm sure I'm not going to edit anything out because everything that you have said is just so much valuable. So we would just like to wrap up the show about what you have in mind for the next, let's say, 6 months or so. Do you have something in mind? Do you have I do think that you are writing one more book. I've heard it somewhere. I'm
Yes.
not sure about that. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, so I
yeah.
actually have a couple of books that I'm working on. I have 3 courses that I'm creating right now
Hmm.
that I'm excited about that are really going to be valuable content to people. I won't share what the topics
Yeah,
are
yeah.
of
Of
those,
course. Please keep
but
it a
yeah, the
surprise.
surprises are coming. For the next 6 months, that's my big push. It is getting these courses done and getting at least one more book out.
Hmm.
So I'm excited about all those things. It's just so fun for me. I'm just so grateful for my phase of my career where I get to wake up in the
Yeah.
morning and make content and be my own boss and my own critique and my own, not having to answer to a client or
Yeah.
an employer. It's just so gratifying to me. So I'm just grateful every day and grateful that I've have an audience that follows my content and that engages with me. It's just, honestly, I wake up, I'm like the most grateful person on all of Instagram because I'm just so thankful
Yeah.
to have these kinds of relationships and to be able to do what I do for my living, right?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just one last question.
Yeah.
Where do you get the time to do all of this together? Because you are, as you mentioned, right now you're providing so much value. You're working on courses. You're working on writing a book,
Yeah.
and on top of that, you're a dad, and you
Yeah.
have a responsibility.
Yeah.
And I see you. Recently you have started going to do more of these talks,
Yeah.
conference things,
Yeah.
and I see you some point of time on the stories you're somewhere else, and then
Yeah.
the next the next day you're with your kids enjoying and doing all
Yeah.
the fun stuff. So
Yeah.
that's so inspiring to see, because we as young designers,
Yeah.
we actually don't have a lot of responsibility. We still complain that oh no, we don't have time, we just don't have time to do this, to do that. But it's just so inspiring to see. So one last question: where do you get this, or how do you manage your time?
It's tough. I work fast. That's number one.
You
And
have to be,
yeah.
yeah.
And every once in a while, as a result of working fast, I get a typo that goes live. I had one on the front slide of my Cincinnati post from a couple days ago. Entrepreneurs was spelled without an N, and it was so embarrassing. But I can't take it down because it has a lot of likes and comments, and it's just so embarrassing.
Yeah.
But so sometimes my speed bites me by getting something that goes live and not having somebody to proof it before I post
Yeah.
it. That also bites me. So those are two things. I don't know where the time comes from. I would say we all have the same amount of hours every day.
That's true.
And nobody gets more time than somebody else. So look around the world, and there are people accomplishing amazing things in this world, and they have the exact same amount of time that you have. So time we use as an excuse to not accomplish things way too much in life. But you can find time to be a good dad and to be a good designer and to progress and to, accomplish whatever dreams and goals you have. That you have as much time as anybody else. So use it effectively. Work fast when you need to. I try and be all in. If I'm in dad time, I am out shooting baskets with my 8-year-old or jumping on the tramp with him, which isn't as fun as it was when I was 15 years old. But I'm out there jumping with him, and it's that kind of thing. And be all in on that. And when you're working, be all in on working. And I think that just being hyper focused on the thing you're supposed to be doing right this second is really valuable.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, because that insight was very much inspiring and totally inspiring for the listeners. And once again, thank you very much for being on the show. It was an honor, and it was the best 1 hour spent, the best investment, I would say, because get to learn so much from you, have been learning so much from you, and your journey has been inspiring as well. So finally, getting to talk to you in person is just like, things checking the boxes that, you get to talk with people and connect. So that's an honor for me and for the listeners as well. And I'm 100% sure that it's going to be a valuable session for people, those who are listening. So to wrap up the show, where can people find you? Where are you available? Just so that if anybody wants to reach out to you, where they can find you.
Yeah, at Morejanda, Morejanda, on all social platforms. Instagram is my number one platform. I reply to every direct message, which takes me more and more time every day to do. But I don't leave people hanging. I'm going to give you a response. And so feel free to reach out to me. My mission is to be the most accessible design mentor in the world. And I don't want anybody out there trying to build their design career to feel like they don't have somebody to reach out to who's going to help them solve whatever issue they're having. As I continue to grow in my following, it becomes harder and harder to do, but I'm trying to figure out ways to optimize that and make sure that I can fulfill that mission. And I do that because I didn't have anybody. When I was growing my agency, I didn't have anybody to reach out to. I just was figuring it out, and experimentation and self-education. And I'd never had somebody to ask a question. And so I'm so grateful to be able to fill a void that I really wanted to fill when I was trying to build my career. Yeah.
So Instagram is the platform that if you are looking to connect, it's the platform. He replies to every messages. He's not kidding. I'm telling you. And that's something most of the people, those who know you, those who follow you, those who are learning from you will agree to the fact. Everybody has to say the same thing. Connection, the way you make connection, it's just great, and so grateful and thankful for all of that. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Once again, because as much I can't thank you enough for being on the show and providing all the value. Took your 12 minutes extra technically.
It's so fun for me. I could talk with you all day, so it's good.
Thank you very much once again. Man. So to all the listeners, all the links related to Mike will be on the show notes. So check him out on Instagram and all other platform. And he has his own website as well. You can just follow all the links and try to connect with him so that you can learn more and more. So thank you very much for being on the show once again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Super fun. And again, you're awesome. Super great designer. Just great person. Just thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much. That's kind words. Appreciate it a lot.
All right. Thanks, man.